I saw you on Sunday, obviously, when you got played here in Munich. Tell me one thing. I know it wasn't the first time you did this, but what does it feel like to play on this very unnatural stage?
Yeah, you know what? It is a little bit unnatural because, like in your whole career as a band, right?
Yeah.
You're on stage and there's this idea that you project energy in a linear fashion, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
So that means that a good band is generally aware of who's where in the audience. So, we're moving around, so we're projecting in every direction, making sure that every part of the arena is entertained. So to speak, right?
Yeah.
There's an exchange of energy. That's kind of how it works. A good band understands that, right? And I like to think that we're a good band. and so, that's what we do. That our live shows are powerful because we understand this. But out of a sudden, you take away this linear fashion of projecting, and there are people behind you. There are people from any direction you see, there are people. So for a moment, we thought like, man, the first time we walked on that stage, it's like, okay, this is going to be different. But, 3 minutes in the first song, we were like, okay, we got this. It's just a little bit more moving around. I can lose some weight anyway. I eat some, home cooking, weight. So that's kind of like a track around the arena. You know what I mean? Like if you just run around it, probably I can shed some calories there. Maybe even, break a world record if I run fast enough. I mean, it's a giant stage. Now, it takes, communicating with each other would be difficult, right?
Yeah.
So the fact that we're playing together for like 19 years, 18 years, somewhere there, I don't have to think about where the other guys are. Yeah, I know exactly where they are and what they're doing. Because otherwise, oh my God. Because you can barely see the guys on the other side of the stage. Like, where is everyone? It's a giant stage.
It's crazy. How was those shows? How were those shows for you? Yeah, I felt like when I watched it from the stands, I thought like you didn't really have to win those fans over. They were already Five Finger Death Punch fans. So
right. I mean, it's German. Germany was always good to us. Like I always say, like, look, German fans are discriminating in a sense of they want to know. They're not casual listeners. They want to know who you are, right? They want to know the band. They want to know what you're about, right? And they're not easy to lend their support to a band. You have to win them over. You have to prove yourself. So you have to come to Germany, play the shows, and they will stand there and they're like, okay, I don't know. All right, maybe, right? So you have to do your thing. But once you win over the German fans, but generally Europe is like that, but German fans especially. And we Swedish fans are very similar in this aspect, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Like they're like that too. Like if once you win them over, however, you can come over 100 years from now. I can build my wheelchair over here or my cane when I'm an old man, and they will be still there. See what I mean? Like it's difficult to win them over, but once you have them, they will not leave you. They will stick with you. That's the trade-off.
It's good.
So I guess we got them. You're like, yeah. Since the last few years are coming, all the shows are sold out, and they know all the words to the songs, and we have a big fan club in Germany. They run the fan club. We don't even have to be involved. They run the whole thing. It's pretty amazing.
You know what? Just between you and me, I thought that you guys had the advantage of having a singer who doesn't play an instrument, because Ivan could walk around freely, wherever he wanted to, and James cannot do that.
Right. Well, yeah, you have to watch your steps. Because the stage has some steps, some down, some up. So yeah, it's for him to run around is not easy. So hats off for Hatfield, because
you never tell James that. Okay, that I said that. It's okay.
Right. But yeah, so yeah, you're right. Ivan can run around, and generally he's like that anyway. Jumps in the crowd all the time. Like he's very engaged with the audience anyway.
Yeah.
That's definitely has.
I'm going to ask you a question now, and you should answer with, of course I would.
All right. Oh.
As a fan, if you owned the regular Afterlife record, would you buy the deluxe edition?
Of course I would. But look, see, here's the thing about the deluxe edition.
Yeah.
That every record that you make, I mean, at least we look at it this way. Every record you make is one piece of art. And it's not just, so that means even the sequence of the songs matter. What's the first song and why? What's the second song and what's the third song? It does matter. It's not just a collection of songs like, here you go, listen to this, right? Yeah. Every song has a place, and the way we write records, we know when we have, okay, we were in the mood of writing, let's say, 3-4 slower songs. Right? Yeah. Then we know, like, okay, if we write 1 or 2 more slower songs, then those songs going to go to the vault. We're not going to put it on a record because then it's too many of those songs. Yeah. Then we're going to play mid-tempo songs. That, okay, let's have like 3-4 of those. If we write more, goes to the vault because you can't have too many of those. And let's get a couple of burners that are like fast, heavy, hard. You need 3-4 of those. Again, if you work more, go to the vault. So there has to be a balance about the record, you know? And so every time when we write a record, that's part of this. Like, it has to be a balance, it has to be a flow. And when you put out Afterlife, we had the song already recorded and ready to go. DMX collaboration, This Is the Way. That song was meant to be on the record.
Yeah.
Yeah. And however, because DMX passed and we had so many people involved, record labels, publishers, producers, there's so many people were involved in that project and DMX's life, that we had to get the green light and the signature from everybody that they okay with that song. Oh. Because first, we got the right to do it. We got the masters to do it. But then when the song was done, everybody wanted to hear it. Because especially once DMX passed, look, the song has to be respectful and it has to be good enough for his legacy. So that means his family, his producers, his videographer, everybody has to say, I like this, it's okay, let's go. And when we were done with the record, we gave these songs to everyone, and it just took so long to get everybody's agreements, everybody's signature, that we thought, like, you know what? We might miss the deadline here. So we opted to take this song off the record and wait. So we released the record without the song, right? And so we always felt like it's missing one song. It's missing that song. So it's not complete for us. But you know, we have to go with roll with the punches. That was a circumstance. And then it took another year to finally everybody's signature, and everybody was excited about the song. Everybody thought like it's proper. It upholds the legacy of DMX. Yeah. In fact, you know, so many of those people were super excited, especially now that the song became number one. And it gave you know, DMX a number one on the Billboard after the fact. You know, so it's awesome. But for us, we felt like, okay, we need to re-release this record now with the song on it as it was meant to be. And since we're doing that anyway, then let's throw some acoustic pieces and this and that, so the fans got to get some extra goodies, you know, some extra stuff to listen to. But that was pretty much the reason behind it, that it wasn't complete without the song.
All right. How did you come about DMX to collaborate with him in the first place? Was he the one where he said, like, it's got to be him, it must be him, and nobody else?
So we did a couple of collaborations before, obviously, various artists, and we even did LL Cool J's Mama Said Knock You Out with back on that one. So this thing was not alien for us, and you know, they're not a secret anymore, but you know, I write on hip-hop beats. I like the swing of hip-hop beats. So when I write music, I generally write on hip-hop beats or African beats. And then later on, we change the drums to rock beats. But then that way, the groove is baked into the guitar riff, right? Yeah. I like that. It has to move. It has to have that, you know. Yeah. And so for this, and you know, and it's just not alien for us. And then as for DMX, Ivan loves DMX. I love DMX. And we always thought, like, man, he's kind of the metalhead of hip hop. You know, his voice, his delivery, the dog bark, the whole thing. If you talk to metalheads and rock fans, generally they like DMX.
Yeah.
Like, even if they're not into hip hop, they're gonna say, yeah, but DMX is cool. Right? so it was a kind of given. So this conversation started like 6-7 years ago. Like, hey man, you know what would be cool? We should do something with DMX. But you know, we have a schedule. He has a schedule. He was not available. We were not available. So it was really difficult to kind of arrange that. And then by the time when we could, when it seems like it was coming together, unfortunately, DMX passed.
Yeah.
So then we were like, okay, now what? It's an item on our bucket list, but we want to be respectful. So we talk to everyone, we talk to the family, we talk to the producers, we talk to everyone involved. Is this okay, guys, if we do this? Right? We have the right to have the masters. We got the masters already, DMX's vocals, but we just wanted to make sure everybody's cool with it. And everybody says, yeah, but we want to hear the song when it's done. So that's kind of how it turned out.
Now that you mention it, I wonder how many songs are in your vault? 1 million.
Right? I mean, it's kind of like there are songs, but they're ideas, right? For example, if you look at songs like Wrong Side of Heaven, one of our, or if not the biggest song we had, right? I wrote that piece of music probably like 15 years, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But it just wasn't time yet. Like, I feel like everything has its time, when it's time to put that music. And it's also really true to lyrics. Ivan has, books of lyrics, and everything has its time. For example, if you look at, Afterlife and what the record is about, right? Yeah. It's a subject and a conversation that we've been having these conversations about afterlife and what happens when you die. Do you really die? And I had a near-death experience, couple of them. Ivan also had a near-death experience. He flatlined and had to be resuscitated, right? So we've been on the other side, and we've been having these conversations. But, it's one of those things where, remember 20 years ago or so, if you were talking about UFOs, right? People were like, okay. They thought like, okay, a tinfoil hat. Now you have government agencies talking about UFOs. See what I mean? Yeah. So sometimes there's a time to talk about certain things. And I feel like there's a spiritual revolution and evolution that's happening in the world. Mm-hmm. I feel like when we had this 2 years break with COVID, everybody sort of stayed home. And I think the entire planet, this was a global event. Even World War II wasn't global. It was certain places of the world were at war, and were not. But COVID was a global event. So the entire planet was, affected by this whole thing. And so that means that globally, all the people got out of the hamster wheel for a second, right? Because, you get up in the morning, you go to work, you do your routine, you got to go to work and make the money so you can pay for the car that you had to buy so you can go to work. And people start to like, doesn't make sense. I'm paying for the car so I can go to work so I can pay for the car. And I had to pay for the house when I go to sleep so I'm not tired, so tomorrow I can go to work to pay for the house, right? So people started having their ideas of like, man, what's going on here, right? So, I mean, without making fun of it, it's really that. People start to realize what's important, what's not important, and it's sort of unleashed, I think, a spiritual and social evolution that we don't really see it yet, but I see the beginnings of it. What's important? And there are now these existential questions are coming. And now we have AI. Is it really a sentient being, or will it become a sentient being? So all these questions are coming now, and they just became real. Now, we within the band, having these conversations since we exist. I mean, this is something I've been keenly interested in my whole life, right? But it wasn't time to talk about yet. Mm-hmm. Because the general public not necessarily was interested or wanted to hear or understood what you're talking about, right? So everything has its time. And I feel like it's the same with music. We have bits and pieces of music that I'm like, not yet. It stays in the vault.
Great. I'm looking forward to everything that comes. You said you have a schedule. How far ahead does a band such as Five Finger Death Punch have to plan their schedule?
About a year.
2 years? Only a year?
About a year. Yeah, about a year. And yeah, a year. So sometimes, like, for example, the Metallica tour, right? That was a 2-year schedule. So the moment we were announcing what's happening with Metallica, we knew our schedule for 2 years ahead. Because it's, you're moving an entire city around the world. Like trucks and hundreds of people. And I mean, it's a big production moving around the world. So the logistics, and nothing can fail. Nothing can fail. One one mistake can end the show, right?
Yeah.
So these things have to be planned out, and that takes time. So usually we have about the one year, maybe 18 months that we see what's happening in 18 months. That's about it. Now, that's the schedule. Now, as for what we're going to do, I could probably tell you like what's the next record and the record after that will be. And that's like about a 6-year schedule. We kind of have an idea what we're going to do, what we want to talk about.
Nice. That sounds good.
Yeah.
And when you stood on this stage, the Metallica stage,
right?
I've seen you before. You had Megadeth as special guest, and it was brilliant. You know, everything. It was just everything in its place. It all fit together. Is there 1 second when you're on this stage playing before Metallica where you go like, in a couple of years, I'm gonna be the headliner, and Metallica are gonna be my special guest?
No. No.
Why not? Is there not the ambition where you go like, and this is gonna be the one where I gotta go?
No.
Like, yeah.
I would say this. Definitely, there is something in your mind or in our minds. Like, okay, one day this is gonna be our stadium that we headline. One day this is gonna be our festival that we headline. I mean, already we headlining arenas around the world. We headlining giant festivals, but when it comes to stadiums, that's a whole different story, right?
Yeah.
So, and we on the cast, like we play some stadiums on our own, especially in America, that we can sell out a stadium. But being a stadium band is the next step. And yeah, that comes to my mind of like, man, one day, probably not in the far future, we'll be the band that will play the stadiums. Now, as for Metallica being opener, no. That doesn't come to my mind. There's no way in this universe that Metallica would open for everyone. They don't need to. They don't want to. It's the biggest band in the world. There's no, they're thinking about like, hey, man, we played Antarctica. Can we play a show on the moon? I think that's what they're thinking about. Not like, I'm pretty sure that's like, can we play one in 0G? Like at least on the international space station or something. Right? I think that's what they're thinking about. So no, I'm not. My head fits into this camera. Look, even with a pineapple, I don't have that big of a head that I would think that Metallica is the support for us. That's a no. But the answer is categorically no. I never thought of that.
All right, point taken.
Right.
In the last couple of years,
right.
Generally, not maybe from the very beginning, but in the last couple of years, definitely, the roller coaster for Five Finger Death Punch only goes up.
Right.
Maybe there were a few hiccups, minor, nevertheless. Are you actually afraid this could go on the way down? There's a turning point sometimes. Are you afraid of something like that?
No.
Okay.
No, because I look at it as like there is a point, I think, in a band's career when you start to pass a point where you have to make huge mistakes for that to happen. Like we were talking about how German fans are hard to get, right? Yeah. But once they support the band, once they accepted you, then you can come back to Germany forever. They're going to be there. And I feel like our fan base is very, very strong. They will be there. And we have also generational fans, meaning grandpa that are 70 and rocking out in a show. And we have, the father and the son and the grandson. Like we have 5 years old and we have 70 years old. So the fan base is pretty broad. I'm not really worried about it. And there's that saying that when you learn to ski or snowboard, right, and you snowboard in the forest, don't look at the tree. Don't look at the tree because you're gonna hit one. Look at the path, right? So I believe that when I'm looking at what I'm concentrating on is how to make this bigger, how to put on a bigger show. When I talk to my light designer, I'm like, okay, put on a laser show that you think is huge, and then he did that, right?
Yeah.
We have Brian Hartley. Brian Hartley did Kiss and Trans-Siberian Orchestra. He's like one of the best in the world. And so he puts together this laser show and he goes like, this is pretty big. I'm like, okay, now that you think it's big, double it. Right? And kids looking at me like, what? I'm like, yeah, double it. And so, so I'm thinking of how to make a show more interesting, how to make a show more immersive, right? Yeah. When you come to a 5-minute punch show, eventually what I would like to do is that you walk into a different world. Like for that couple of hours you are in the arena or in the stadium where we are, you will be removed from the world and you're going to be in our world. You get to forget the outside world, right? And how immersive, how real we can make that. How big, how interesting, how memorable.
Yeah.
I don't want you to say, I saw 5-minute punch. I want you to say, I was there. Right?
Yeah.
When people talk about Woodstock, they don't say like, I saw Woodstock. They say, I was there in Woodstock. Yeah. Because it was an event. So how do I make it in the event? So that's kind of what I'm concentrating on. So in that picture, I don't even want to bring in the dissonance of like fear of, well, what if? I don't even want to acknowledge that. Because as I said, if you look at the trees, you're going to hit a tree. And you have to look at where you're going. And I'm just looking at where I'm going. That's how this works for me.
The fun part is, though, you are already one of the biggest heavy metal bands in the world. Right. In this past couple of years, did you ever take a minute to go back and look back and reflect and go like, holy shit, I'm in one of the greatest heavy metal bands on the planet? Does that overwhelm you sometimes? Because when you talk about everything, you talk very unemotionally about it.
Right. Yes, because it's kind of like, imagine a race car driver, especially, now let's say I'm in Formula One. Let's talk about the rally race car drivers, because those guys are frigging crazy, right? Looking down on this dirt road, right? And sometimes you hit a bomb, you fly a little bit, and you hope that you're gonna land, and you planned it, bam, you landed it, and you drive it. I'm 100% that the race car driver doesn't have a second to think about, like, man, I hit that bomb pretty good, didn't I? You know what I mean? Like you can't look into the rearview mirror.
You're not in a race car.
I am kind of is. It kind of is like a race car. I think I am in a race car, but I'm just trying to use the analogy that when so many things happening daily, it's a chess game of life, right? The career of the band and what's happening. It's like, if you ask me what happened 3 days ago, I have no idea. Like, I have no idea. It's sometimes I'm telling guys like, remember when, like I remember this conversation, like, remember when we played, Wembley a couple of weeks ago? I'm like, bro, that was yesterday. What are you talking about? I'm like, oh shit, right? So I mean, like, it's so fast. It's like you're sitting in a bullet train. That's what I'm saying, the rally car, because you gotta drive this. You're booking that on the dirt road, and you don't really have time to look back but since you asked this question, sometimes I wish I could.
Yeah.
See what I mean? Like, I didn't have that moment yet, but I stop and look back and go, wow, man. You know what I mean? Like, I'm still just, dodging the corners,
So that you are a very, very trained sports guy. How much of physical education and exam can you actually do on a tour? Can you still go around on a daily basis and kick some other guy's ass?
Oh yeah, 100%.
As much as you want.
Oh yeah. So on the road, right? I have 5 jiu-jitsu black belts with me. My tour manager, head of security, both of my camera guys. I'm a black belt in jiu-jitsu and judo, right? So I have a crew of assassins with me, and we have these mats that we bringing. And so today we have a room next door, which after this interview, I'm going to go and choke out my assistant. I mean, that's just how this works. So we're gonna go and train. So we carry these mats with us, and we train almost every day. And in days when we can train in an arena, we have a day off, then we go to local academies, right? So we already have an academy. We're gonna go in Munich. We were in Luxembourg. We train in an academy there, right? So we're going to various jiu-jitsu academies and train. I mean, I still compete still to this day. When I have time, when I'm home, and my schedule aligns, and I go and compete. Like national championships, world championships. Like I go and still fight.
Whatever happened to this sex, drugs, and rock and roll thing?
I don't know. Was there ever?
Don't ask me.
Like you would admit that there was ever. No, well, look, it's like I think what happened that, you know, there was a time where getting a TV set, throwing it out of the window, you know, was a thing, right?
Yeah.
Now the TV set is like 1 inch thick. It wouldn't even make a noise when you throw it out. You know what I mean? It's a flat pallet. What doesn't make a noise when you throw it out of the window? Now, but, you know, jokes aside, I think the world changed, right? What people are interested in, I don't think this, not the sex part didn't go away, obviously, but drugs and rock and roll and this was portrayed. What sex, drugs, and rock and rolls really meant, there were a bunch of guys on the road, you know, like the Vikings going to town and, you know, and burn down the town. And, you know, I think that time is gone. People are interested in other things. In fact, I don't think you can succeed with that today, right? It's just so complicated. You have to, every band that succeeds, every artist that succeeds, you know, doesn't matter what they portray.
Yeah.
There are a couple of really smart guys in that organization. You cannot succeed if you're an absolute dumbass. There's no way. It's so complicated. You know what I mean? It's so complicated these days. There's no MTV. There are no shortcuts. You can't just have a great video and you're an overnight star. That's that. So you have to have a couple of really smart, driven guys in every band that succeeds, right? So, you know, so I think it's different. Like for me, it's, you know, I like martial arts. I like the fight. I like the, you know, I like racing cars. I race monster trucks and, you know, and fly airplanes. To me, it's a different kind of adrenaline, you know?
I have no more further questions. I'm going to go out snowboarding and see if I don't hit a tree down.
Oh, look at the tree, man. I'm telling you.